Well, hey there and good morning. Let's see if I can just get myself in frame here. Gosh, we're closing out a great week. We started out on Tuesday talking all about resume, how you get the essence and value of your career distilled down to that single sheet of paper that as they're droning out with resume blindness, like snow blindness, like, wow, get them in here, get them on the phone. That's the right resume. Now, that was Tuesday. Go back and you can watch that right on my LinkedIn very, very easily, or over on my YouTube channel. I'll have it next week up on my SelfRecruiter blog. Wednesday, we took that single sheet telling of your best points that makes them jump out of the chair, and we took that over to LinkedIn and we thought about how to transfer all that into something more of a three-dimensional sales brochure all about you. Much more detailed, much more compelling, very easy to kick your competitor to the curb with a really great LinkedIn profile. You naturally come to the top 1, 2, 3% of the people that they're looking at. Yesterday, we gave you all the secrets that recruiters teach their individual candidates on how to beat those other candidates that they're competing with, how to make a real interview plan, which is a sales meeting. Your job is to go in there and to teach them how to select you. Make sure to watch that one. Today is going to be another great one because now that you have those basic elements, we're going to teach you how to supercharge your job search as soon as it comes back up here. This is part of how you take back control, by the way. And taking control is taking control of the discussion about you. Here's the entire week. All of these you can watch on replay. Easiest probably is right from my LinkedIn, but they're also over on YouTube. And next week, they'll be on the SelfRecruiter website itself. Please do like, comment, share, all those kind of things. It really does help, and I really do appreciate it. Been speaking about this concept all week long here. We have to not let somebody else think for ourselves. Now, I'm going to give you a lot of direction, a lot of advice. It's all with a grain of salt. It is up to you to understand, should I follow this one? Should I follow that one? Which one is more in alignment with all of my values and how I'd like to reach my target? There's many pathways to success, but none of the pathways work unless you actually put in the effort. Today is supercharging your job search. How do we make that job search much, much easier than it really is? In case you haven't met me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker, a resume and LinkedIn guru as well. This job search, which is so difficult, is two things we really don't like. And I've mentioned this a few times this week. It's both a sales process that we don't like, and it's a dating process. And that is very, very tough. A little bit about my background, 7 or 8 years in outside headhunting and recruiting. That's 3 different disciplines on a desk, 2 of them national market. Never met anybody, lots of placements over the telephone. 1 local market, Manhattan, suddenly had to meet everybody. That's really a game changer as well. Of course, VP over all 100 offices before moving out on my own to do what I do for the last dozen years. And that is really work one-on-one with clients, helping them lift and establish their brand correctly across the resume, LinkedIn profile, in their interview discussions, and really changing the course of many, many careers. If you feel stuck or not recognized for the value you're contributing, you really owe it to yourself and your family to work with someone that can really help you change that dramatically. And I know exactly who that is, which is right here. Reach out. Check out my SelfRecruiter website for all the details. Now, SelfRecruiter book will certainly help you. You can check over on Amazon or on my SelfRecruiter website to get one of those. It's a wonderful roadmap that will solve a lot of the issues that you face. Watch the LinkedIn lecture multiple times. Even though we did this lecture for you live on Tuesday, there's so much packed into this, and LinkedIn is such an incredible tool for your job search. That means you have to go back and layer in these tools as your self is ready to absorb them. And that's only going to happen when you get in there and really work it and think about everything. A few other resources, and we'll get right into today. That's 5 keys to supercharging your job search. Number 1 was devastating mistake that you have to avoid in job search. And of course, how your resume doesn't become resume roadkill, and many others over on my LinkedIn and under the blog on SelfRecruiter. Under the blog and SelfRecruiter also are all of the videos that will help you move your job search forward. So this laundry list kind of populating across the screen as I get a little sip of coffee here. This is it. This is what job search really is. This is how you can find that next job. You can see the job. You can hear about the job. You can hear about a need. Boy, we're really beginning to split hairs there. Absolutely, because that's where you find the hidden jobs. Uncover a lead through our network or through past or present colleagues. I don't have to read all of these because I know you can read, but you get the idea. There are many, many, many stones to lift up, rocks to turn over, leaves to sweep out of the way so we can see the path forward. And we don't know which path is the one that might deliver us. Now, that's a lot of different activity, and this is how it leaves most people. When I would give this talk at the New York Public Library all the time, I'd go, well, who's happy with their job search? Who feels successful? Who likes their direction? And it's like, or worse, I would just ask them how they felt, and all these words would start pouring out, which is really why I made this list. Universally, we're feeling these things. Oh, even if you compartmentalize them, I'm not feeling these things. Well, in private, you're feeling these things, and these things are a hindrance. So we have to learn to compartmentalize and put those in a little box, get them up on the shelf and get them out of the way. We can go visit that hall of sorrow anytime we'd like. It'll still be there our whole lives. But it comes back to don't let somebody else think for yourself. You're going to have to think about all the things you have to do, and you're going to have to be incredibly surgical and effective at time management. This is not about wasting incredible amounts of time in your job search. This is about distilling it down to just almost a mathematical, systematic, step-by-step. I don't even have to think about it. I just run down this list of things, and magically interviews start to happen. People start to like me because I've prepared properly, all those type of things. This is your guiding principle. Is this the most effective use of my time at this moment? By the way, when you have the right activity level in your job search, you're going to feel a little bit like you're inside of a tornado with things about to fly out uncontrollably, and you're going to forget very important things. I want you to learn to fall in love with that feeling, because that feeling indicates you have the right level of activity. So much activity, you almost can't keep track of it. And then you'll be asking yourself, like, what should I do next? Is this the most effective use of my time at this moment? Now, what most people do with their time is they tend to endlessly go after low-hanging fruit. Oh, let me get some more low-hanging fruit. I just love the taste of low-hanging fruit that produces really nothing. Yes, occasionally it'll give us the job that we may or may not ever want. The low-hanging fruit is just activity that fills up your day. Oh, I can apply for this. I can apply for that. I can apply to be rejected for this. Okay. Well, I hope you don't get rejected, but we know that's what generally happens. I want you to evaluate strategically how you invest your time and do the more difficult activities, the more distasteful. I don't have to do that, do I? I don't want to reach out to someone. All those things that actually produce a far, far better result. Now, I used this technique myself many years ago as I was shifting out of recruiting and doing what I do now. I wrote my book and all this other stuff, and it's like, how do I get this consultancy going where I work with clients and I talk to audiences and everything else, and I'm writing and producing all the stuff and getting it out there. And at one point, I'm trying to get some reviews and traction for my book, and I'm sending out all these intros as a new voice in job search. Here's my credibility. Here's my background. Here's a sample to my questions. That's how you attract journalists, by the way. You have to introduce yourself as a source. And so I'm like sitting on the couch having this argument with myself, home office. Is this the most effective use of my time at this moment? Sending out those gentle press releases about John's new voice in job search so many years ago, one at a time. I can't just send those things out CC'd. I guess somebody else will write about John. It has to be out to each one. Dear Jack, dear Jim, dear Jill, dear Jason, dear Jessica, whatever it might be. And I'm having this argument. And you know what? I won the argument. I certainly did not like what I was doing. But do it. It's going to lead to the result. And so I forced myself to double down and just take the medicine I didn't like and just keep sending those things out one at a time, and do it. 2 hours later, got a call from the Wall Street Journal. Oh, it was a very good use of my time. And you get the Wall Street Journal, and don't the others all cascade right behind them? And suddenly you get a quote on CNN or Fox or here or there. Absolutely. All those things come from investing your time wisely, sometimes in things you don't like to do. Job search involves a lot of things we don't like to do. Why can't they just see my value and hire me? Wouldn't that be nice? That's a dream world. So what job search really is this daily or weekly plan. That means we have to distill it down to some core elements, even though there's many elements. And that means we have to search for jobs. We have to send out resumes. We have to network, whether we like that or not. We have to follow up on those opportunities, because just sending that resume out with a cover letter and then I never follow up, what was the purpose? This is a date. You thought that was worthy. You get rejected just because they didn't answer your email? Nonsense. Let's get to the decision maker, which I teach you in the LinkedIn lecture, how to get right to the decision maker. So watch that one again. It'll help you. Following up on strategizing on interviews, all of these things, by the way, that you see here, every time I utilize one of these skills, I am sharpening that skill set until it's like breathing. With all of those activities, you have to repeat. Wherever your first or next step is, just keep going, just keep going. Well, we're going to teach you how to structure and build your job search plan of action that will really produce a better result. What I would like for my clients, I cannot do it for them. You guys actually have to do the work. But what I'd like for my clients, what I hope for my clients, what I wish for my clients is that they get multiple job offers simultaneously. On that big thought, let's have another sip of coffee. So why is it so important to get multiple job offers simultaneously, or say within a 2-3 week period, 30-day period, something manageable? Because that's the only real way you have actual choice in your career. If you have moved from one job to the next job that made you an offer, to the next job that made you an offer, well, unless you're getting recruited into every company and going up very fast, that's not really going to produce the type of outcome you'd like. I want you to think about what a real job search is and what real career management is. Real career management is thinking about something. I mean, what do I imagine, even if it might change over time? What do I imagine 5 years or 10 years or 20 years seems like forever, even 20 years from now? How do I imagine myself professionally? And we may have lofty ideas. That's great, by the way. Realistic, but lofty. That's how you pursue your education, your passion, your training, develop your skill, and go toward that goal. And I've worked with many people over a long period of time that had goals that were like, wow, that's a pie in the sky, big goal, but they're on the first step. But that's a big goal for your first step. Not going to get to that goal now, but gosh, over just a little bit of time, and I see how they strategically move from chosen job to build a certain background. Suddenly, you can go grab that brass ring before too long, before too many moves. So real job search, in my view, is to reverse what most people do. What most people do is sit on the internet looking at job postings, which I find completely tragic. It's tragic. Well, it's more than tragic. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy because these individuals don't really realize they're wasting 50% of their time. About 50% of all job postings you see are not real. How do I know? Well, what's the definition of a real job posting? Well, it's on the internet, John. I see it posted. What do you mean it's not real? Okay, if being posted on the internet's making things real, you have an awakening coming here. What we're talking about is the fact that just because they've posted it doesn't mean that they've allotted the budget, are ready to onboard that person, ready to interview if they identify the right person, if they identify the right candidate in the discussion process, are they ready to extend an offer and set a start date? All of that is required for that to be an actual real job. The rest is simply endless window shopping. Ask yourself this. I know by now you've certainly seen that job you wanted. You applied for it. They didn't respond. You kept going on applying for everything else. And then like a month or 2 months later, here's the same job again posted. Like, they didn't respond to me last time. They just keep endlessly posting what they may hire someday, which has little relevance on today because they're building this pool in their database so that maybe someday they don't really have to work with a recruiter, outside recruiter, headhunter. But most organizations typically, if they're a certain size, have to work with an outside headhunter or recruiter because I love the good HR folks, and there's some very good HR folks, but most HR folks are not actually trained in the real world in how to drill down into that database of candidates and find the right person. That's what an external headhunter is an expert at, because they live and die, their whole life, financial life, family life lives and dies on the success of making placements. If they don't solve that problem, they don't succeed and they don't get paid. So I want you to reverse everything, throw out this whole system of chasing down these job postings. By the way, looking at job postings is looking at leads. That's one of 15 different things that could produce an opening, but you can't put all your eggs in that basket, is the point. So what I'd like you to do is reverse it. Let's start with 30 companies, statistically perfect to hire you. I teach in the LinkedIn lecture 2 different methods to build a list of 30 companies, statistically perfect to hire you. The only thing you don't know about that list is, do they have an opening right now? Don't know. It doesn't really matter either, because you can't know if a company has an opening. Well, I can go look at their job board, see if they have a job posting that's 50% not true. The only way you can actually know if a company has an opening is if you have an internal real spy in that company, because you have some companies that are faltering, and yet they're faltering and shrinking, and yet they're still posting their hiring because they have to look good to the creditors that are funding them and everything else. I get it. There's a lot of back end reasons that mess up all of job search. So let's put this list of companies together that would hire you right now if they had an opening. And now what we're going to do is we're going to reverse search those organizations one by one. First off, stack rank them in value. Please don't stack rank them in easiest to get to. No. What is most valuable to John? Where do I want to work? I want to work here first, next, stack rank all of them. And now I start at the top, the most valuable one, probably the most intimidating one. Oh, maybe I should start with a lesser one. No, start with the most important one. Of these, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into LinkedIn. I'm going to reverse search that particular company. I'm going to cast a wide fishing net, not a fishing line, a fishing net, selecting 25 to 30 individuals. As I look at the titles, I imagine the department, put in a keyword or two if I need to, distill it down. And what I'm really doing is using my own knowledge of the org chart to rebuild their org chart that I see on LinkedIn, or at least the section I need. So I have 25 to 30 people that somehow surround that job I'm interested. Up the food chain, don't be shy. Down, all the way down to admin level, very strategic reasoning, left and right into another department or two. So really what I've done is I've triggered a marketing event of every one of those 25 to 30 people, having been told 5 or 6 people have looked at you since you've last signed into LinkedIn. Who's looked at me? Click. Oh, look, John Crant. Oh, that's a great background. Oh, we need a person just like this. Soft marketing yourself to 25 to 30 people right behind the firewall of the company, using the LinkedIn system of just having looked at them, having the correct headline and the right profile and everything else with your LinkedIn profile, and then suddenly giving them the opportunity, because they surround the pain point, to go, oh, we need one of those. Maybe I should pass this on to Jack, Jim, Jill, or whoever the decision maker is. First step, 25 to 30 individuals, open those profiles, trigger that marketing event. Now I'm going to trigger a second marketing event by asking them to connect. You mean like before I've even applied or introduced myself or talked to them? Yes. If you wait to that point, how many companies are you actually going to talk to? Okay, well, that would reduce the number of companies you're actually going to work to try to find a job down to a very, very tiny amount. I want you to expand that thing. So yes, I want you in advance to begin to connect with these people. So all 25 to 30 people. And if you need a technical secret to make this easier, now I'm on a Mac, so you're gonna have to figure this out if you're on a PC, but on a Mac, I simply hold down the Command key. I just hold it down. And then every name I click on LinkedIn opens into a new tab. That's just how you streamline workflow. Then I can run down all 25 to 30 tabs. Very easy, right? Now ask them to connect. That's a simple message you write one time ever, and you copy and paste forevermore. It really sounds like this. You don't know me. I'm professionally appropriate. And here's a little stroke to your ego. It sounds like I like to connect with other professionals in our niche or niche, depending how we like to say that. And comma, I'd love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. I certainly say nothing about it. Oh, I'm looking for a job. Oh, this person's going to hound me. Don't stay away from them. Don't even look at them. No, let it be organic. Let it be their idea. That's a much, much better idea. So I asked them to connect. By the way, don't be offended by their accepting or not accepting. Some of them won't accept until they actually meet with you. That's not the point. the opening the profiles, the asking them to connect, that's each of them are picking up a hook, sliding a little worm onto the hook, tossing out into the little pond, and being brave enough to wait for it to wiggle around and some fish to grab it. The fish grabbing it is them clicking on your name and suddenly opening your profile. Now, those are the first two steps. There's a third very important step, which you see in this list, and that is out of the 25 to 30, which I've already opened, I've already asked to connect, didn't wait for the answer because the answer is irrelevant. This is a sales process. Do it, do it, do it. Next step. Now I look at this 25 to 30 and simply pick 3, 4, or 5 decision makers that I think are somehow involved in the discussion to hire a person like myself. Of course, your gut feeling and knowing your industry, you can get very, very close, and very, very likely that 3 to 5 people will include the decision maker. But even if it doesn't, really doesn't matter. Pretty much guaranteed statistically that every single one of those 3 to 5 will know the decision maker. All you have to do to be to those people is impressive, and don't forget it's a sales process and a date simultaneously, which we're going to teach you all that language coming up. And then, wow, they will hand you off to the right person for that positive credit of, oh, look what I found. I found someone here, Jack, Jim, Jill, look at this. Book a meeting, get an interview. That is really what your job is. And the process is to mechanize this as much as possible so it's not stressful. I just run to the next task on the list. I don't even let myself stress or think about it, because job search is a sales process. We have to go and convince them. It's not as easy as just, oh, I see the job, let's go get it. Sure, but there's 1,000 to 2,000 other people that are hitting that darn button. You're competing against all those people, which leaves us in this very unhappy place. So we've got to kind of break out of that. That's the whole point of becoming this self-recruiter that takes control and problem solves, because job search is this sales process. It's not me standing on the corner with a cup, jingling a coin, hoping to get another. I gave it to you verbally, but we're going to take you through on a drill down here. So we have to really create a full job search plan. And the easiest way is just to write this out so you can look at it unstressed. You can just execute it very, very quickly. And so I'm going to select the companies or organizations I want to work for. Profit, nonprofit, doesn't really matter. They're all businesses. Sometimes people think a nonprofit or foundation is not a business. It's like, they're all businesses. It's just different types of businesses. Devise the steps needed. Yes, I want you to think like a detective. Give yourself permission to be a little bit of a Sherlock Holmes. I mean, this isn't really possible what John is telling me, is it? Oh, but if it were, how do I align the sun, the moon, the stars working backwards to discover the steps? You break that down. It's really not that hard. Discovering the decision makers, well, that's really easy. And I'm going to literally take you through LinkedIn to show you that reverse search I just talked to you about. So discovering the decision makers, those are the 3 to 5 people, the influencers, whoever that final decision maker may be. That's pretty easy because we'll find that right from a LinkedIn quick search there. I'm sorry, what was their title? Decision maker. What's their job? To object to you. You have to quit taking that personally. When they say, oh, you don't have this background, John. Well, you've never worked in our industry. I haven't. Just like it's a gift from up there. Oh, there's lots of competitors. If I want this job and I have not worked in this industry, there's some reason I think I am valuable for this job and my experience is valuable for this job. Who are my most likely competitors? Oh, someone doing that same job at their competitors. Mm-hmm. How likely are they to be doing a great job at the competitor? Just look around yourself right now, if you're employed. How many of your coworkers all around you, up, down, all around, would you say are doing a really great job at their function? Without being nice, just being critiquing between you and I. Yeah, it's not very many, is it? Okay, so decision maker's job is to throw stones at you, to object to you, to see how you overcome that. So if they say, well, John, you haven't worked in our industry. I haven't, but I'm sure you'll meet a lot of those folks. This is an agree but disagree technique. Oh, but I'm sure you'll meet a lot of those folks in the other candidates. Others are always candidates. I'm always an individual. I'm sure you'll meet a lot of those in the other candidates you might see. What I bring to the table, and then we have to differentiate. What I bring to the table is something very, very different, and why I'm going to be more valuable in this role, projecting myself into the role so they can imagine. And that's why I'm so excited by today's conversation. Right back to them sweetly, because it's a date and a sales process simultaneously. Overcome those objections, dazzle them. Don't take it personal when they throw some Scroogey thing at you, it's because they're daring you to convince me. If you got the steel, if you got the backbone, show me what you got, dazzle me. Get the job, let them create the job. That's an actual job search plan. Now, these 30 companies, this is the statistically perfect ones, not just 30 random companies. You can move mountains if you've got the right plan. Now, this is a basic job search funnel. I think probably everyone in the world has probably seen a job search funnel by now. If not, you haven't seen any sales training because it's existed since the dawn of electronic sharing. Up at the top of the funnel is where all of the activity goes in. The more activity goes up at the top, it's like a coffee drip machine. It goes down and down and down and down and down each stage until you get toward offer. You suddenly realize with this that I've got to have a plan to drive this activities. If you want multiple offers simultaneously, which doesn't mean all today, but maybe all within a 30-day period, that's a manageable period where you can speed one up, slow one down, get them all in a certain window where you can decide and choose your career direction yourself. That requires going after 10 companies simultaneously. That's a lot of activity because I have to go after the 10 companies. I have to go back and read all their website. I have to go back and read all their history. I have to look at all the competitors to that job company. And then I have to do 25 to 30 people each one of those companies times 10. You get the whole idea. 10 is a lot to juggle simultaneously. Your day will be full. If you are pursuing 10 organizations simultaneously, and this means I am hot and heavy after this pursuit. I'm not like, sitting on the couch with my feet up having bonbons. Oh, I'll leisurely do. No, this is like I'm working like this is the most important work I've had. Your goal is to produce one interview a week. Oh, that's a tough goal. You're not going to produce one every week, but in a perfect world, you should be producing one every week. Some people might be listening and going, well, I haven't got one in 3 months. Okay, well, we need to change something because your goal has to be that I must generate a new initial, this is the first interview every single week. Now, I expect that some weeks I have a second interview for somebody else or a third interview. Yes, got to have those or it's never going to happen. The initial first interview, one new one with a new company every week to get new blood, new energy into your job search. Now, as you go after these, what we're doing, I verbally walked you through this, but visually it's important for you to see it as well. We're going to select those 25 to 30 people up and down the food chain into other departments. It's a sales process. I ask to connect. That's why I explained all of those steps to you so you really understand this part and we can move just a little bit quicker. That message that you don't know me, I'm appropriate. Here's a little stroke to the ego along the way. You realize it's this single message you're going to write one time ever, copy and paste forevermore. Copy, paste, paste, paste. And if you did it with the open tabs, like I recommend it, you just tab, paste, tab, paste, tab, paste. Well, tab, paste, connect, tab, paste, connect, or request to connect, whatever we might like to call it. One time ever, keep it in a text file. Nothing beyond that. Now, next final step, and this is the real go after the interview piece. This is where I select those 3, 4, 5 individuals likely to be involved in that decision process. Now, what I'm doing is the same activity that a good recruiter does. You don't think a good recruiter just randomly does all this activity all day without building their knowledge base of who are these companies? Who are the players? Oh, when that player moves to a new company, how will I track them? They capture all of that data in a database of their own. But really, I have some forms right on my SelfRecruiter website under the blog. Just look for the job search management system. It's all free. You can download these forms. So as you're developing knowledge of a company and its structure and who the players are and what happens in your outreach process as you're going after multiple companies simultaneously, you can't keep that contained effectively here. You've got to capture it so you can even motivate yourself by, oh, what should I do next? Excuse me. What should I do next? Because it's a sales process. It's not simply one outreach and, oh, I didn't hear back. Surprise news, it's not their job to respond to you. Oh, I know you'd love them to respond to you. It's not their job. It's your job to be so compelling and so irresistible they can't help but respond to you. And that's a very, very different thing. So one more look at the full sales process. So you understand that and understand this is a little engine we've got to get going. Repeat, 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 like that gerbil going around that wheel. Small changes change perception. That means we have to change our script as well, what we say about ourselves. Now, This is 100% off the cuff today. There is no script here. I'm well versed in all of this. There's no script. Earlier in life as a recruiter, did I work with a script? Absolutely, because despite what you see here, I'm literally shy and introverted, which usually makes all my friends like spit their coffee across the room because they've really never seen it. It's like, sure, John. It's like, you are what you always were, even if you get past those things technically. So yeah, shy, introverted, and yet, wow, I can go out there and do all of this. Use technique to get past any limitations. Your job essentially is to, I hate to say it this way, but almost to put on a true but theatrical show, because your job is to convince them to select you. That's yesterday's interview lecture. Let's continue ahead though on this job search piece, because in job search, you may go after organizations. Some will be remote, some will be hybrid, some will be office every day of the week. Maybe I don't apply to that one. I don't know. It depends on what you like. But in this case, you've got to make sure you convey that you're effective remotely, even if you've never worked remotely. So you might have to think about these things. Now, I talked about these earlier in the week with more detail, so I imagine you might go back and watch those lectures if you'd like a little more detail on this one. But you've got to show yourself effective at a distance, even if you've never worked remotely, because you never know what companies might do eventually or what company you might like to work for eventually. Well, let's get back to the decision maker. Yeah, we talked about the 3 to 5 people. Yeah, I hope they're in there. But who are the decision makers? Well, not just the decider. Yes, I know there's a decider. All right, let's break this down. Years ago, I'm working for a company as a recruiter, outside headhunter, not really for the company, but outside headhunter, working for Informatica, one of my biggest clients as a recruiter. Cash cow, lots of placements all over the place. And, I called into the Atlanta office. I'd made placements there. Eric was there. He's long gone to another company many years ago, but Eric was the regional manager in the Atlanta office. And it'd been a while. And as part of my normal activities, I have a minute or two. I should check on Eric, see how he's doing. Oh, hey, Eric, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. It's a little small talk. He's like, oh, how you been? Blah, blah, blah. Really nice stuff. And he goes, oh, yeah, I'm glad to talk to you. I need your help. I'm just about wrapped up here for Atlanta, but I need an individual for Tennessee and one for Kentucky. Now, I'd already placed people with him. We didn't have to talk about it. I knew exactly what he needed and what to go after. I'm like, absolutely, Eric. I know exactly what to. You know what? Let me meet with my team. Let me get some calls out. I'm going to have someone in front of you that really dazzling very, very soon. Pause. We're talking about deciders, right? So in this case, what did John hear from that exchange? Well, he certainly did hear we need someone for Tennessee and Kentucky. Ooh, that's future business sometime in the future. I know it could be soon future, but that's the future. You know what's right at the finish line right now? Can anybody guess? It's Atlanta. Just about wrapped up. You know what just about wrapped up is? Not wrapped up. You know what that says to me as a recruiter? If you've got somebody absolutely dazzling, dangle them in front of me and see if I can go after it. Now, if I ask permission, oh, Eric, can I show you somebody for Atlanta? No, we're about wrapped up. It's like asking, you don't ask your parents for permission, do you? You ask them for forgiveness. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. So same thing here. If I'd asked Eric for permission to present someone, he would have, oh, no, we're too far along. Focus on Tennessee, Kentucky. But what I did was made sure he heard what he needed to hear, hung up the phone. 2 hours later, as I'm scrambling through my databases and making calls, and I pulled out someone from a direct competitor in Atlanta that was like 250% of their quota. Boom, 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 like superstar. Let's get in there and lock it in. So it's not even 3 hours later now, I'm calling Eric back. I'm like, hey, Eric, John, I just want to touch base again. By the way, I had a great conversation with my team. By the way, my team as a recruiter, me, myself, and I, it's solo. Even though I'm in an office with others, it's full life cycle recruiting. As a recruiter, I did every part of the process. There were no other people. It's John as the team. But they have to feel like there's a whole team here of John right here. And I got my team on Tennessee, Kentucky, have someone for you really, really soon. By the way, here comes the dangle. By the way, if you haven't extended an offer yet for Atlanta, oh my gosh, do I have a great candidate. This individual is over XYZ company. They're 250% out of their quota. They'd love to talk to you this afternoon at 4 o'clock. I want to speak with them. Not how much are they? Not it's too late. oh, so dazzling, like I'm at that decision point, but maybe I should look at this one superstar before I pick this other one. Now, my person, by the way, came in number 3. You know what number 3 is? A winner. We forget that. I know it feels disappointing to be number 3. Oh, I'm not the winner. I'm not the winner. You know, number 2 is a winner. You don't come in 1, 2, or 3 without being a winner. They just didn't pick you for some reason. By the way, this was not the end of the hiring process, because that's not how Eric's process works as the decider. Eric is the decider. He's the direct hiring person. But Eric's hiring process that I've been through many times, I know he'll pick 3 people he would hire tomorrow. He'll take any one of these 3 people. The 3 that made the final cut of the 3 then go up to the Eastern VP. I'd already had people interview with the Eastern VP, so I know all about that person too. But what I really had to find out was, why was this person number 3 in Eric's mind? What was number 2 doing that made them number 2? What was number 1's background? You know, he didn't really want to tell me that, but it's all about how you can make it slippery enough so something slides out and they tell you something. And I got enough detail to really coach my individual to go up to talk to the Eastern VP and be ready for the 1-2 punch, and they won. That was the shortest placement ever. 7 days from the moment I was aware there was an opening to the placement offer. 7 days. It's all possible, but you have to step in at the finish line. So my gosh, listen for those clues and think about the decider isn't always the decider. Sometimes the decider goes with his boss. In Eric's case, you know, he knows how to cover his rear. He'd send them all up to the Eastern VP, and the Eastern VP is like, well, I mean, Eric, I think they're pretty good. I mean, I really like number 3 there. Who was my person? I really like number 3 there, but you should hire wherever you'd like. You know who Eric hires every time? The one that their report to manager also wants to hire. That is how you build consensus. And he would have taken any one of these 3 candidates. That's how, as a manager, you do really great things when there's multiple people involved. So yes, there's other people that influence the real decider. Sometimes it's power in HR. Sometimes it's the hiring manager itself. Sometimes it's the boss's boss, or even boss's boss's boss. Look at that, boss's boss's boss. I'd like you to realize how you can get to any of these people. What you have to think about is whatever vertical that you are in. Let me get a little sip of coffee here. Whether it's this customer service or quality assurance or sales, marketing, accounting, IT, whatever it might be, well, you see how the titles flow across there. It's more or less the same structure at every company. The titles may vary just a little bit, but you get how the org chart works. You begin to use this to begin to go after and capture this knowledge, so that when you go back to companies next year after, or when that person moves to a new company, you've built history. How else do we get more people to call at these companies, or more names, or more decision makers? Well, here's some great ideas right here. This is all technique that recruiters use as well. They scrape articles, books, blogs, press releases, company websites, all those things for name mentions. Happens all the time. All the different great people I do work with, interchange with, I can always, when I get or don't get what I'm after them, I go, oh, let me ask you a different question. And I can get a referral. Who's the best, whatever you've ever worked with? I didn't say who would be good for this job. That's too much power for the person that you're talking with. I'm the one that decides that as a recruiter. I just need them to give me the name. And you need to learn how to get referrals, which is, who's the best this you've ever worked with? And you go and pick that person's brain. They may not be right, but they certainly know other people that are right if they don't want it, whatever it might be. That's how good recruiting works. And that's how you also can extract names. So I want you to think about whether you're interviewing or managers or reading, there's always this extraction of information and capturing it on your materials, so your work life, your career management gets easier. Of course, we're going to use LinkedIn. This is what we're going to use most. And this means, just like I showed yesterday, it wasn't yesterday, 2 days ago in the LinkedIn lecture, I'm going to re-show it to you here in this lecture because it's really important for job search. We go to this unified box at the top of LinkedIn. In this example, I'm searching Informatica, big database middleware company, one of my big clients years ago. Don't click on the drop-down list. That's a trip down the rabbit hole. It's a trick. Just type what you'd like, hit enter, and you're going to get this nice secondary sorting process. And this nice secondary sorting process, well, as long as I'm here, John mentioned there's probably other companies I'm not thinking about. Okay, so let's look at what other companies come up under Informatica. Go more companies. Yeah, they just hit it behind the drop down. What do I get? 34,000 companies. Wow. Do you think Informatica has 34,000 companies? No. Yes, I know all these you see on the screen are Informatica. But after you get past the Informatica names, who are all the rest of these? I can tell you. This used to be my field. These are all system integrators down this list. They either install or resell Informatica software. If I am statistically right to work for Informatica, I'm very likely statistically right to work for a number of these companies. Another way to put together statistically perfect lists to go after. But then I really have to find people. So I go over under the other tab. So no, show me the people. 2.5 million, can't look at 2.5 million. So, I should mention too, I only use the free version of LinkedIn. You can do everything I'm teaching you on the free version, but you have to think. This is problem solving. I don't need everybody in the world. I need the people that are currently working for Informatica and currently in the US. So if I narrow that down, 1,615 results. Oh, we're getting better. We're getting better. I like this. We're getting in the right direction. Yeah. I can't look at 1,600 results either. Get blocked. Problem solving again. I think it's a VP that's going to hire me. Yeah. Really US, really currently Informatica, not like 3 years ago Informatica. What do I get? 75. A lot of chiefs in that company. I have it. I think it's a director. Really US, really Informatica. What do I get? 228. Going the wrong direction. I have it. It's a sales director. You know why I have it? It's a series of problem solving. You have to butt your head against the wall a few times until you get down to the right answer. So a sales director, as long as I'm looking at location, right down to New York City, even on the free version. And what do I get? 3, magically. I have 3 decision makers right in the right field. John said 3 to 5. Oh, I'm good. Yes, John did say 3 to 5. But if you'd like the very best results, you need to get 5 every time, not just settle for 3. Put a little more thinking cap on. Okay, I need 2 more. Maybe there's a sales VP, not just a sales director. New York City, Informatica. Let's see. 2 more. 5. Ding, 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 ding. I made it. Now I have 5 people to go after that are at the top of the food chain, one of which certainly is responsible for this hole in their chart that has to be filled with someone really spectacular, and someone's going to respond to me. So now I reach out to each and every one of these. Now I'd like to connect with them, but you realize Nick here, I get frustrated. It says, oh, send InMail. Do we understand what InMail is? It is the literal definition of spam. It is paid email. Please do not send InMail. It may not seem like spam to you, but as a higher profile individual, as a public speaker, I can tell you, oh, my inbox on LinkedIn is filled with well over 1,000 unopened messages of nonsense, endless spam. And yes, some really good messages get lost in there as well sometimes. There's just so much spam. For a high volume target, I can hardly even keep track of it. For average individuals, maybe there's not as much spam. Who knows? But don't send InMail. But wait a minute, I still want to connect with Nick. Okay, well, load Nick's profile. You're still going to get frustrated with the send InMail. But if you just click the ... they just hit the connect button. Oh, well, we'll hide it over here. They're never going to find it over here. Look, there it is, connect. Here's that message we write one time ever and send forevermore, capturing all the information so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we ever look at a company. We can start to keep track of all the real players in the industry in our sector. Remember all of this as you outreach. It's a date and a sales process, which means it's got to be about them before it's ever about you. So you've got to take your first step. Hi, this is John. I'd like you to hire me. I hope that is not your first step. How'd you get my number? Take me off your list. Never call me again. Security. So that's not going to help us. That's not valuable. Job search is a sales process. Value everywhere, especially in every word. That's how you're going to open the door. So we're going to take you through the language of being persuasive. You have 30 seconds to live or die. And dying sounds like, how'd you get my number? Take me off your list. Never call me again. Security. 30 seconds. In this 30 seconds, you have to greet them. This is what I used to teach recruiters all the time. Of course, then I teach audiences at the library and the New York State Department of Labor, Goldman Sachs, and many other places, Harvard Business School Club of New York City, and many others. It's the same process. So let's just zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to make this larger. Maybe I'll even come on top so you can see it nice and large. So we're not going to write this right now. I want you to think about this form, and this is part of the job search management system. You can go over to selfrecruiter.com, just download right on the blog for free, job search management system. And this part, the text on the left will help remind you of what I'm teaching you right now when you actually write your own script. I want to break down the basics of an effective script for phone calling or emailing or whatever script vehicle we might use. And so we want to greet them because that's expected, usual, customer expected. We're going to play on that dynamic. We're going to wait for their response, which is what nobody wants to do because we're afraid of, how'd you get my number? Take me off your list. Never call me again. Had it all said to me as a recruiter. We're going to acknowledge their response, good, bad, or ugly. You can't pretend you didn't hear it. You also can't let it stop you. And so we're going to show you how you get past an ugly response as well. If you went to let's just do it this way. If you went to one of those schools, there's only about this many. You went to one of those schools, oh my gosh, you need to mention it. If you went to an amazing school, but it's not one of those schools, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just put it aside for now. That's not the sell piece. 2 or 3 key accomplishments, whatever you think that you've done, produced something similar that would make them jump out of their chair if they heard it. And then closing. Closing is simply a scary sales phrase that simply means, well, most people misunderstand what it is. Most people think it's, well, ask for what you'd like. No, that is, let's even come a little larger so I can emphasize. That is specifically not closing. Closing is asking for what you would like and then asking for agreement to it. This is the part that everybody shies away from. They propose it, but they never ask for the agreement because they're afraid of no or any of the other negatives. You must bite the inside of our lip if we have to and go, how do we agree on that? Does that sound good to you? Whatever it might be, you have to bring them to a close. So what does this sound like? Let's take this larger for you again so you can think about the structure. Hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. How are you doing this morning? Oh, fantastic. You know, Jack, I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. I'm so excited by what I see going on at XYZ company. By the way, I saw your new launch of your such and such initiative. Oh, that coverage is always so great to get. Yes, speak to them like a real human being, maybe like a dear old friend you haven't seen in 5 years. That's about the right tone. You've got to give yourself permission. Did you notice also, absolutely, they were only by first name? Hey, good morning, Jack. Just like a dear friend. Absolutely. Very clear with my full name. It's John Crant. So they don't go, I'm sorry, who is this? None of that happens because it's so clear. We can script all this out because if we're on the phone, we could print it large. It could be right here. And even though I might panic and have palpitations in the moment, I can simply relax, look down and read it. And it works that well. So we're going to tell them why we're calling, tell them something that we've done that was dazzling. You know, I handled a very similar initiative when I was back at ABC Company. And then think about a carrot you dangled to get a meeting. You know, I'd love to come in and meet with you and share more about how I could really even help this initiative with the experience I have from the initiative from ABC. I have an opening Tuesday at 10 a.m. on my calendar. Might that work for a brief meeting? The one day, one time on the calendar, absolutely. If you're open all next week, I'm never meeting with you. You are not valuable. Your dance card is not full. I want someone that is hard to meet with, even though you need to make it easy to meet with me. So you give them one day, one time to react to. I don't really expect them to be open Tuesday at 10 a.m., but you better be if you're offering it. Whatever they respond, it is. Now, let's give you the negative response. I call them up. And it's like, hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. How are you doing this morning? Terrible. Well, Jack, let's see if we can change that. You know, I just had to reach out. The rest is the same. Let's see if we can change that. I did not increase my speed, did not increase my tempo or anything else, kept my energy happy. It's really, really, really important. Thank you so much for the comment about my book. I do have a lot of passion. Check out my book, both at the public library and of course, over on Amazon and on my SelfRecruiter website as well. Thank you for that shout out. I appreciate that. So I want you to just think about these pitches and how it changes everything. When you're in the hiring mode, it is endlessly frustrating that HR, this is every HR, this is not just to bash HR people because there's some really great people there. We misunderstand HR. They have so much they have to do that's beyond the just screening applicant piece. That's a tiny piece of HR. And so I want you to think about how I've got to shake up this entire approach, and engage people in a very different way. If I do, and I use this script properly, I'm going to get a very, very different reaction. And that means every time I do call or reach out, I have to think about, well, I worked really hard to get this person in live conversation. What can I get from this call? What can I say? What can I leave them thinking? What are they thinking about me? Did I showcase my skills properly? What else can I do? There's always something else you can do. Maybe the discussion isn't that great. Maybe you get them live and you're so excited. Maybe go a little larger so you can see here. You get them live and they're so excited. And they suddenly go, oh, actually, John, we just filled that role. Pause. Do you think John's happy to hear that they just filled the role he's after? Of course not. Of course not. So what's John's reaction? Oh, Jack, that's fantastic. Yeah, momentum. Oh, that's fantastic. But by the way, I'm so curious. What was their background? What company did they come from? What was their background will tell me what this person chose. And was I on target thinking I was right for the job? Let's see what they chose. That's one thing it'll tell me. Also, it'll tell me that background of that person that just held that job over at the company they just came from, which now has an opening. Ding, 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 ding. That's how easily we can pull together information if we stay light on our feet, asking questions, conversing, but getting people to open up like a flower and tell us things. So I want you to think about all the ways that this conversation, whether it's good or bad or ugly, can really help. And that conversation with that manager could keep going even once they gave me that little information about who they hired. And they go, wow, oh, fantastic. By the way, Jack, have they started yet or they're just about to start? Oh, no, they started on Monday. Oh, great, fantastic. You know, Jack, if they don't produce the results that you're expecting, I certainly hope they do, I remain very interested. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if it doesn't somehow go the way you expect. But I really appreciate your help today. Let me ask you one more question, because I might as well go after something else I can get off this call. You've already built rapport with this person, so why don't you get more out of them? And I can go, let me ask you, what am I missing? If you had my background, where would you look for opportunity? And then shut up. Well, I'd look over at XYZ or ABC or whatever comes out of their brain after a certain length of time. Why didn't they tell me before? It's not their job to tell you those things. It's your job to make it compelling for them to regurgitate that information. So I want you to think about all the things you can do once you actually talk to a person, even if it doesn't hand you the very first thing you get. In fact, that's a great way to think of it. Every call or every discussion you go into, whether it's in person, over the phone, wherever it might be, you have a goal of what I want to get. I really want to get this. Okay, you're going to either get or not get that. If you don't get that, what else can you get? You work too hard to have this conversation happen. You need to extract other value that can make the rest of it easier. Now, another way, once you've had this discussion, say you and I had a few nice minutes on the phone, is to get an agreement, essentially, to call them back. Now, I could do it as simple as this. Can I call you back and bother you? That doesn't sound very good to me. Not very good, not very good. Getting an agreement to a relationship. Now, I was taught this as a recruiter. And when I was first taught it, I thought it was complete hogwash. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is nonsense. But you hired me and you trained me. Okay, I'm going to do it to prove it's nonsense and doesn't work. But oh my gosh, does it work? So let's highlight it and show you. And now let's have you hear it. This is toward the end. I've already got rejected. I've gotten 2 or 3 other pieces of advice. I go, Jack, from time to time, I'll run into something really, some interesting situation when I'm speaking to others in the industry. Those others are other hiring managers, just like this one. It'd be helpful to run a scenario by you. Would it be okay if something comes up to reach out and call you for your opinion or your advice? A little stroke to the ego. If something were to come up in discussions. Now, you may go, really? All that? Would you do all that, John? It's like I want them to realize that it's a very odd, weird situation when it comes up, but it's going to be interesting. This is how those managers stay abreast of what's going on in the industry. This is how they stay aware themselves, because they also live in a bubble. If you're very valuable, you're out there meeting with other managers, something comes up, they'll say, yeah, feel free to give me a call back if something interesting comes up and you want to talk about it. Now, the likelihood I will ever call them back is extremely tiny, because the point is never, ever to burn out your connections. But if I needed to call them back and wanted to, it's there. Plus, by simply going through this exercise in their brain, they have bonded with me deeper and will remember me, and it's much different. It works. Just don't burn out your assets. Manage your assets are your people. Manage your communications and outreach. Ask them for their opinion. Put them in your shoes, looking out of your eyes. Check out with your background and your position within the industry. You must hear things. Who do you know that's hiring right now? Or where would you look if you had my background? Those are all ways to put them in your shoes, looking out of your eyes, giving them a little figurative nudge to gently move things forward. Now, just to remind you, real job search steps in my mind are not sitting on the internet looking at job postings. That's lead research, which is a small little amount of time. Those are just leads, ideas of what could be open, but toss a coin. Half of them are not open. This is what real job search really is, which we broke down today. The system to track it all, we're just going quickly through this. It's all those initial things we talked about, but every Friday, end of every week, we've got to go through, a truthful moment. In my book, I talk about you only really have to be honest with one person to succeed, and that's yourself. And illustrating it, I talk about, imagine yourself naked in front of a full-length mirror with only fluorescent lighting. Not very pretty sight for most of us, no matter what kind of shape we're in. Unless we're in one of those magazines, and they look great, but that's all Photoshop, right? Okay, so I want you to think about how you've got to have that harsh reality of light, of honesty to make some breakthrough. Here's the forms. I'm just going to take you through so you can see them. I'm just going to take you through one of the forms. The rest I'll just show you. The one I'm going to take you through just is the goal form as we wrap up just in the last 2-3 minutes. As we zoom in, and I'll make this a little larger so you can see it a little bit better. As we zoom in here, the bottom of the form is where you come up with, what are my weekly numbers I'm after? Numbers of companies I'm going to contact. Are you ready for what I'd recommend? 3. I had 2 fingers up. I'm like, I need a third finger. 3 fingers, three companies. You may go 3. I can contact 10 a week. Okay, you can't contact 10 a week and reverse search and pick out 25 to 30 each. Pick out 3 to 4 or 5 decision makers. Do all that layering. And it's not just one outreach. It may take 4, 5, 6 outreaches to get that discussion to happen toward each one of those 3 to 5 people. It's a lot of activity. After 2 or 3 weeks of doing this, you'll realize 3 is about the maximum you can actually do per week, because that's new energy every week, but I got to follow up on last week's 3 and the 3 from before that. And I still have the 3 from before that, and because there's still things going on. That's what we have to think about. So I want you to understand that 3 is manageable. Number of emails, I want you to track your activity. These are outbound. Inbound is the fruits of our labor coming back to us. Doesn't matter. Outbound emails that generate things. So outbound emails to managers in HR, these are brand new emails you've never sent before to an individual. So these are new people. You may have sent out emails to 10 different managers this week, but only one of them was new. Then you put a 1 here. You don't get credit for the other 9 you already knew. You've got to keep filling your dance card too. So number of calls to managers. Number of calls to HR, which you realize is not in bold. I wouldn't be calling HR unless I want to work for HR, which is the right place to call. Out of this list, the thing you can kid yourself most about, number of meaningful conversations. Maybe in a very, very busy week of talk, it's about 6 conversations. What's meaningful? Booked an interview. That's pretty meaningful. Discovered an open job I didn't know about. That's pretty meaningful. Got a referral to a new person I didn't know before this conversation happened. That's pretty meaningful. Got another idea of what company I should look at based on my background because I probed around in conversation. You realize there's a lot of things I could get besides just this job I'm after or this interview I'm after. Any one of the value points you got from it is a meaningful conversation. You write it down. If you're not developing meaningful conversations, it will force you to go back and go, oh, what else can I do on this call? And then you'll get very different results, or begin to get very, very different results. The top of the form, you sit down every Friday, and here's where you have that lightning moment of, let's bring in the fluorescent lighting and see what's real. This will not help you to fudge your numbers. If you got a goose egg, it's a goose egg in that box. And pretty soon you track this over 8 weeks. Yeah, you might get a bunch of zeros and a bunch of these in the first week or two. And then you go, oh, I better try one more. And I try one here, and then something positive happens. Then I try two. And then by the end of 8 weeks, I have a very different outcome to my job search. All the forms, the rest you can go see yourself. That's job opportunities, networking strategies, resumes I send out, interview strategy, calling strategy. Everything is right there. Take your first step and repeat, 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 repeat. Take control of your job search. Take control of your career. Develop a system to where you can get multiple offers simultaneously, and you'll have a very, very different outcome. Now, if you need help on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, on your prep for your next interview, all those things, reach out to me. All my contact information is right over on the SelfRecruiter website, or reach out directly at john@selfrecruiter.com. Services are all under the services tab, and I will look for you guys next week. We have a couple very special brand new sessions coming up next week. See you then. Bye-bye.